So hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will discuss the investment function. So normally in classical theory or Keynesian theory, we use this kind of investment function. I is a function of the real rate of interest. And what we see that as rate of interest rises, the investment declines. So now we will go to the root. Why do we consider an inverse relationship between the rate of interest and the volume of private investment? So here we mainly consider by investment is normally known as the addition to the stock of capital. And we know that there are two types of investment. Number one is the investment on fixed capital, and number two is the inventory investment. So inventory is related to the mainly related to the stock adjustment. So here we'll consider mainly the fixed capital, and we will determine the relationship between capital, the investment and the rate of interest by a neoclassical type cost benefit analysis. So here we'll consider two types of firms. So one are the production firms and number two are the renter firms. The production firms, normally we consider here the production firms that takes the capital, hires the capital on rent, and by the capital it produces the final goods and services. And renter firms, they normally purchase the capital, they are the owners of the capital. Rental firms purchase the capital and they rent it out to the production firms. So first we will start the cost benefit or analysis of the production firms. So just the production firms have to pay rent R for using the capital, and capital is used in the production. So if we see that R is the rental rate of capital and P is the price, so we can say that R by P is the real rental rate of capital. And according to the marginal productivity theory of distribution, any factor should be paid according to its marginal productivity. So just for labor, we consider that the real wage is just equal to the marginal productivity of labor as per the neoclassical marginal productivity theory of distribution. So similarly, the real rent of capital should be equal to the marginal productivity of capital. So first we consider here the demand curve for capital. So here we use a Cobb-Douglas type of production function. So production function is given as y equals to a into k to the power alpha L to the power 1 minus alpha, whereas a is a constant which is determined by the technology, and alpha is also a constant, and the value of alpha is 0 less than alpha less than 1. So this is a homogeneous production function and it is subject to the constant returns to scale as per the property of Cobb-Douglas production function. The next part, so we have to determine what is the marginal productivity of capital. So that will be the demand curve for capital. So we can write here that del y by del k, if we differentiate it partially with respect to k. So what will be the equal alpha into a into k to the power alpha minus 1 L to the power 1 minus alpha, or we can write it alpha into a into L by k to the power 1 minus alpha. So if this is, we can write that marginal productivity of capital equals to alpha into a into L by K 1 minus alpha. So from this capital demand curve, from this equation we can draw a capital demand curve in which in horizontal axis we are measuring capital and vertical axis we are measuring real rental rate and marginal productivity of capital. So we will find here this is a downward sloping curve because as K rises, the marginal productivity of capital will fall as per the property of Cobb-Douglas type of production function. So for time being, we consider that this is constant, supply of capital is inelastic. So this will be the equilibrium rental rate of capital determined. So two more things we have to remember this. As per the property of this production function, if the employment of labor rises, it will shift rightward. Demand for capital will shift rightward. So a similar thing will happen if there is an improvement in the technology. So any technological progress will also cause an increase in the marginal productivity of capital, and the demand curve for capital will shift rightward. So now we come to the next firm, that is a renter firm, which purchases the capital and rents it out to the other production firms and earns the rent. So as we see for the production firm, the cost for production firm, we have seen that the cost of capital is R by P and benefit of capital is alpha into A into L by K to the power 1 minus alpha. That is the marginal productivity of one additional unit of capital to employ. So now we'll consider the benefit of the renter firm. Definitely the rent that the renter firm earns, this is the benefit. So first time we will consider the benefit in terms of R. Later on we will come to the real terms. But first we will come to this form P, R. That means the nominal rent from the capital. Now, if we consider capital, the rental rate of capital is, the purchasing price of the capital is PK, the price of capital. So what are the costs on it? So first part of component of cost will be the interest rate. First component of the capital is the interest rate, the nominal interest rate that the firm has to pay. So we write it I, and total cost will be I multiplied by the price of the capital. So this is the first part. So now question may arise, if this case we consider a firm takes loan and purchases the capital, so for which it has to pay the interest rate. But if we consider a firm who finances the price of capital by its own fund, then also rate of interest will come, because we will consider here the amount of money required to purchase this capital. It could be saved and earned the rate of interest I, or it could be used in some other purpose and earn the rate of interest I. So this I, that time what we see, we have to consider the opportunity cost. So either it is the cost, realized cost, or there should be the case of an opportunity cost. So this is one part of the cost of capital. Second part of the cost of capital is the fluctuations in the price of the capital. So if the price of capital rises for the fluctuation, that is a gain. So if it falls, that is a loss for the renter firm. So we can say that's why we can use this term minus delta into price of capital. This is the price fluctuation, and definitely the negative of the price fluctuation will be considered as cost. And number 3 is the delta, that is the depreciation rate. So every year there is a decline in the price of capital because of the wear and tear of, there is common convention, whenever the capital is used there is some wear and tear of the capital, so the value of market value of capital declines. So this is called the depreciation. So we can find it depreciation rate. So delta pk is the total depreciation cost of the capital. So now if we consider the total cost, so total cost, if we consider CK, cost of capital, equals to I into PK minus delta PK plus small delta into. So if we now term the real term CK by P, first I have to do it CK. If we take PK as common, so what can we write? I nominal interest rate minus delta PK by PK plus delta. Now if we see this equation, what do we find? Delta PK by PK is the rate of change in price of capital, and this happens due to the inflation. So we can write it that delta PK by PK, rate of change in price of capital, is equal to the inflation rate in the economy. So cost of capital becomes price of capital multiplied by nominal interest rate minus rate of inflation plus delta. And from Fisher's equation, we know that I minus nominal interest rate minus the rate of inflation equals to the real interest rate R. So here we can replace it. CK equals to price of capital multiplied by R plus delta. That means the real interest rate plus rate of depreciation. So from here we can measure the real cost of capital. So real cost of capital is given as CK by P. So it is the PK by P, real price of capital, multiplied by R plus delta. So what we see, the equilibrium condition of the renter firm will be R by P, real rental rate equals to PK by P into R plus delta. So now if we did, this is the benefit and this is the cost. So we have considered both the renter firm and the production firm equally. Now if we consider there is no difference between renter firm and production firm. The firm itself purchases the capital and utilizes it for the purpose of production. So what we will find that in this case, for the case of a production firm, the benefit is, the condition is what? MPK equals to R by P. For the case of production firm, we see R by P equals to PK by P into R plus delta. So what will be the surplus of a firm if we consider the firm itself purchases its capital, purchases its own capital and utilizes it for production? What we will find? We will find that his per unit surplus will be benefit minus per unit cost. So here we measure everything in the real sense. So this is the, we can say, the surplus from capital. So SK. This is the surplus from capital will be the difference between MPK and the real cost of per unit of capital. So if we see here that the MPK is greater than PK by P into R plus delta, definitely the investment will rise. So from here we can write that, so there is the incentive of the firms to invest more to increase the stock of capital. So from here what we can see that private investment, whether the firm will add the stock of capital and how much, that will depend upon this investment function can be written as, or the delta K change in capital will be given as IN, which is a function of, better to give third bracket, so function of MPK minus PK by P into R plus delta. So from here what we see, other things remaining constant, if the rate of interest rises, that means MPK minus PK by P into R plus delta, this will fall. And if so, what we'll see, the delta K will also decline. And if we see that the other things remaining constant, rate of interest rises, then MPK minus PK by P into R plus delta, that will, sorry, if rate of interest falls, it will rise. That means investment will rise. So from here, what we can say, what can we say? We can easily conclude that other things remaining constant, the volume of private investment is inversely related to the rate of interest. And this relationship is derived from the profit maximizing behavior or the optimizing behavior of a firm. So whenever we see that the rate of interest declines, the private investment becomes more profitable. And if the rate of interest rises, investment becomes less profitable. So given the rate of depreciation, given the price of capital, and given the production function, the volume of private investment is inversely related to the real rate of interest. The higher rate of interest, lower investment, and lower rate of investment. So lower rate of interest will boost up the private investment. So we conclude here, we end here today's lecture. And if it helps you, so please do like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.